Okay, we're live, so don't say anything. Okay, guys, just wait till I introduce you. Oh, you muted yourself. What's going on, everybody? I'm Alex, the Comic Quarter. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you so much for joining us for this live conversation. I've got two of the most fierce collectors, like pretty much, I think we're recognized by the International Gang Association as being one of the newest formed gangs in the comic book world. And it's Comics with Bonix. Steven, how's it going? Good to see you.
Hey, Alex. Excited to be here. Thanks for inviting us on, and looking forward to talking about some comics, about the market, about all the craziness, and show off some books. And yeah,
It's going to be a good conversation for sure.
Gonna go strong today.
Yeah. I feel the energy coming, radiating from your caffeinated body there.
Oh man, I'm so caffeinated right now. I'm trying to hold back.
Yeah, it's like G Fuel for like an 8-year-old.
It's kind of late for that, but hey, who needs sleep anyway?
Exactly.
Right. And we got Double A Comics in the house. What's going on, Double A? It's good to see you, my friend.
What's up? It's a pleasure. It's good to be here. I'm excited to get into it. So much stuff going on. Let's buy some Pokemon cards. I'm just kidding.
Dude.
Everything is going nuts. I can't wait to talk about all this.
Pack breaks. There you go.
Yeah, I'll do some pack breaks, bros.
I might get some guest appearances pop their head in. So.
That's cool. That's awesome. It's great to see the fam in the house. And they're like, who are these people, Dad?
Exactly.
Who are your friends, Daddy? We're going to have an awesome time tonight. The comic book, I mean, there's so many videos, and I think somebody, Double A, you might have said it, there's an arms race of speculation videos right now. Everybody's gearing up. Everybody's doing their research. They're doing their speculation, investing videos, and we're just here to put our positive spin on the comic book market as it sits right now, as we're observing it and participating in it at the same time. And we're trying to find the balance between investing and buying. So we're going to get into those topics. We're going to talk about them. I think it's really important right now to have a game plan and to formulate that. So right now, I don't know tonight if we're going to have some tips and tricks about how you guys are doing the comic book industry right now. So I think it'll be fun.
Absolutely. Yeah. I think I agree with that. I always try to use my experiences as tips or tricks for the community. I usually like to show them what I do, and hopefully they can learn something from me, because I do the same thing when it comes to YouTube. Same thing when it comes to YouTube. When I got back in the hobby, it was just watching videos, learn what they do. Not exactly copy them, but get the good things that I like and I agree with. So I think the 100%. Community can do the same thing with this video. So it'll be cool.
Yeah. Sweetness. Go ahead, Double A.
Yeah, no, the discussions are just, I feel like every night on YouTube now, someone is live, someone's releasing a new speculation video, someone's talking about the 6 books that no one's talking about, except they're talking about them in that video. So now we are talking about them. And even the larger media, I mean, you're seeing articles in random places like Business Insider. I mean, not that random, but mainstream media has picked up the collectible market and is now writing about it, talking about it. People that aren't even necessarily in the hobby are writing articles about the hobby. So it's been quite the ongoing transformation over the past year or two. So I think it's good to just sort of take stock of where we're at and sort of evaluate a little bit in a little more controlled environment that isn't just go out and buy this next book, because if you don't, you're going to get left out. Sort of a more controlled approach. And thinking about it in terms of your own personal collecting.
Well, you're wearing a suit and tie, so I trust you already. So whatever you say, I'm probably going to do. I trust you. There's a level of perception is reality going on right here. But let me do this first. Let me say hello to the chat, because Unruly Simeon has been here for over an hour and a half, tailgating, waiting for the show. So Unruly, you win the prize of first person here. Then Eric Peter Carlson, what's going on? It's good to see you. The comic collector, Automatic Comics, Unruly Simeon again. Who Dat Comics has been doing videos long before I did. And I remember watching him do some like haul videos from the kitchen. I don't know if he remembers like the haul videos from like the kitchen table or whatever, but Who Dat, I see you, homie. I've been watching you for a long time. And then we've got Paul, and then I'm not going to attempt the last name, but Paul, good to see you. if anyone else wants to try the last name. But then
Paul's
we
good.
also have
Paul's
John
good.
Venezuela. Did you try?
I just said Paul's good.
Paul, we see
Stick
you.
with Paul.
It's good to see you, my friend. Hey, Double A, can you do me a favor? Go into your settings and see if you can turn up your mic at all. See if there's like a mic setting that you can turn up, and then we'll get to you. I want to hear more about what you've been reading as far as like the Insider, the business magazines and business articles. Does it have an option for you to turn up your mic at all?
I did a little. Did it work?
Yeah, I think you sound more clear now.
Are you getting more? All right.
Sounds good.
Let me testing. Am I good?
Yeah, I think you sound great.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So I just think something. I mean, this is a very, very broad picture, but with I think once we entered into everything with COVID-19 and pandemic territory, I think a lot of people weren't sure what to expect for the general market. And I think the past year, I mean, regardless of what you thought or didn't think before, I think the past year has blown away a lot of expectations. I think the expectation has just, everyone thought, oh, it'll grow a little, it'll come down. You know, I think some normal ebbs and flows we were expecting. But it seems like every week you get on Instagram, YouTube, whatever media you're following, and another book has broken another record, and that is just continued at an incredible pace. And I think what's really changed is you have a lot of what I would call non-comic book readers or non-traditional collectors jumping into the hobby and buying their favorite character or their favorite book or wanting to get involved, or people stacking not just one of a book, but 2 or 4 or 6. And this is really impacting everything. And then, you know, you've got everything from, I mean, Automatic just mentioned the stimulus money, but, you know, a lot of the people buying these books beforehand already had the discretionary income. And so some of those people have just doubled down. So, but I think what's really altered and changed is the amount of interest from sort of outside of the community. You know, your non-traditional, you know, your non-comic book reader is really getting in on the act. I mean, I've seen at least a dozen articles in non-comic book places about buying and selling comic books. And that's a huge, to me, that's a huge signal of kind of the winds have sort of shifted slightly. This isn't really an underground hobby anymore. It's becoming very mainstream.
I've noticed it in the comic book YouTube community that there's been a lot of growth within the community. Some of these larger channels, Comic Tom, Comics with Bueller, they've been really blowing up. I might be coming through your ears, actually, Aaron. Double A might be coming
There's
through your
a little
ears.
bit of echo from Darren's side.
Oh, okay.
So I might have had you turn up your mic too loud. Sorry about that. But so I've seen it in the comic book community where you've got these larger channels. You've got Gem Mint, you've got Comic Tom, you've got Comics with Bueller. All these channels are growing exponentially. And I was talking with Bueller on his live show the other day, and he said some of these bigger channels are really opening the door. And then these newer collectors or these seasoned collectors even have been coming in through the door that have been open through these larger channels into the YouTube comic book community. And then they've been finding their niches within the community. They've been going to Bonnick's channel. They've been going to Double A's channel, my channel, all these other channels within the comic book community and finding smaller communities within the larger comic book community. So I've been seeing really quick growth on even my channel in the last few months. There's such an excitement that people are seeking out information, and they're coming to the comic book community on YouTube for some of that information, just like I did when I started out.
Yeah. Which is great, but it's also, it has this really great pros and cons thing to it, because the pro is there's a lot of excitement about the hobby. There's a lot of people coming in and wanting to check out what's going on with comics and collecting in general. And some channels have had exponential growth where they start a channel and 6 months in, they're hitting 1,000 subscribers. And that's happening very rapidly. The reverse of that is you have a lot of voices talking about it, but sometimes it's hard to shift good or more practical information from just what I would call more excitable information of people just putting stuff out there. So for example, WandaVision just finished. I'm not going to say any spoilers, but like everyone was pointing to certain villains or certain people that were going to show up every week. And every week it didn't happen, but you had voices getting louder and louder. Oh, it's going to happen. You'll see it's going to happen. And I think so as things go forward, there's almost going to have to be, and Two Brothers Comics talked about this a little bit, some sort of personal responsibility with especially with the larger channels about the stuff you're talking about, because at times mentioning a book can cause huge market shifts where if 50, 60 people go to eBay and buy that book, all of a sudden the market changes. So,
yeah,
which is exciting that many people are into it, but it's also a tale of caution.
Yeah. From my point of view, I think and I got this from a couple channels. I got this from ETA Nick and also another YouTube channel called Reserve Investments. And the way that I see it is the comic book community and the comic book market had a few catalysts that increased the demand in these books. There were 3 catalysts that I see. The first one was CGC grading. When CGC started grading, comic books started blowing up because they can now put an appraisal on a comic book. And now there's a census. So that was the first catalyst, huge for the comic book community, right? Second catalyst is the MCU. When the MCU started making movies, it brought people in the masses. They wanted to get their first appearance of their favorite superhero, Iron Man or Spider-Man. So all of these comic books just started blowing up because of the MCU. So that's the second catalyst. Now, I don't know if this is a catalyst, but the pandemic really brought a lot of people into the hobby. They see the growth of these comics. They see that they can actually have something that is tangible, they can hold and they can enjoy, but also increase in value. So having all those check marks for comic books, they then came back in the hobby. I came back in the hobby for the second catalyst, for the MCU movies. When Infinity War came out, that just blew my mind. I was like, okay, I'm getting back into the comic books. So now the pandemic is bringing another wave of collectors. So that goes into my second point, is these wave of collectors are now coming from other collecting markets or investing markets. They can be coming from sneakers. They can be coming from card collecting. They can be coming from pop culture collectibles like Pokemon, Magic the Gathering. So now that they see that there's this huge potential in comic books, and this is what this video, in my opinion, is about, is the balance of collecting, speccing, and investment. So I think comic books are those 3 things balanced, because I think the sports collecting market or the sports cards collecting market is more on the spec side. If a player doesn't do well, then the card goes down. But here, I think it's a balance of investments, speccing, and collectibles. So that's really my point of view of why the comic book market's so crazy right now.
I like it. I like your perspective, and I like the 3 different thoughts on the different catalysts into what's really driving the comic book industry. I was talking to an owner today, and he is on the bandwagon. A lot of people are on. It's 217 Comics, Cards, and Games in Springfield, Illinois, and everyone has been saying it. Card collectors are also, there's a ton of card collectors. Who didn't collect baseball cards, basketball, hockey cards, football cards as a kid? And that also went into, like Magic cards, Pokemon cards. I was telling Comics with Bonix earlier, I collected DC and Marvel Overpower. So comment in the chat below if you remember DC and Marvel Overpower. I thought that was the coolest thing. I still have a big card Tupperware specifically made for cards, full of that stuff, waiting for this 1994, 5, 6 cards to explode. I don't know if they're going to, but they were so fun to play. That's what I was doing when everyone else was maybe almost about to start collecting Pokemon.
All right.
But yeah, I mean, it's a great perspective. Oh, one comment I will make about the larger channels. When I started out, it was Lightning 2288. It was Omega Shenryukin. It was Mercenaut. Then there's a few others. Hero Collector, Hero Hunter. There was very few channels. Whodat. Some of the New York Warriors were out there. It was a small group of YouTubers. And what I would do is I wasn't going out because they said, because Hudat showed a big book or because Mercenot showed the hottest book on the planet. What I would do is make a mental note that whatever, West Coast Avengers 45 is a super hot book right now. And when I'd go out digging and I'd be to the West Coast Avengers, I knew which number to look for. And so I wasn't going to eBay because of I would take mental notes. So when you're watching those Comic Tom videos, make a mental note of the hot books. I don't go to eBay and buy them because I fear of missing out. I'm actively hunting those books. And these two know that I found a huge book today for $4, which is like pretty much a $200 book in the market. I'll show that in the haul video, you know, tomorrow or this weekend. But anyways, Double A, what's going on? What are you thinking?
Yeah, so I think this is kind of the impact though of all the channels and the excitement is, I mean, now I don't know how many channels have top 10s, but it's so many at this point. I mean, there's so much YouTube content, I can't keep up. I mean, it's literally like drinking from a fire hydrant. And so, I mean, and I think the other thing that's important that needs to be sort of fleshed out more is the difference between collecting, investing, speculating, and flipping. A lot of times those terms are being used interchangeably, and they are not the same. So like I'm a big Batman collector. Anyone who follows my channel or me on Instagram knows that. And there are certain books, I buy them because I like Batman. I almost ignore the market to a certain extent. I just, that's a Batman book and that's one I'm going after. And I think that's kind of when you know when you're collecting is, would I buy this within reason, regardless of if it was worth nothing tomorrow? If that book dropped to a $50 book, a $20 book, a $10 book, would I still be interested? I think that's more of the collecting. And then from there, you've got, you know, I've met people on Instagram, don't know anything about comic books. They buy them to sell them. So I'll be in a live stream and they'll be like, oh, this is the first appearance. And someone will say, that's not a first appearance. And they'll say, oh, I don't really know. I just bought it yesterday. Yeah. And these are the people that like, they're buying and selling, but they don't really understand what's in the books. They just see the interest in the market, and so they're hopping on board.
So with that being said, one strategic move that I should make is give my collection over to my wife and let her sell these books and let her do it, because I'm like, no baby, no, you can't have this book. No baby, like no. That's my Kevin Hart. But I do want to say hello to the chat. But my wife would have no problem selling. You know, I showed her a book, and I'll talk about it in a little bit, that I bought for $1,700 like 3 years ago. Yeah, it's like a $10,000 book right now. $10,000. And she was like, the first I did tell her, like after I showed you guys on the private chat, I called her and I said, hey babe, I bought the comic book, you know, a couple years ago for, you know, mere $1,700, you know, whatever, you know, and it's worth literally $10,000 right now. And she goes, her only words were, sell it.
And so that's why, and we all have books. We all picked a few books as sort of examples we're going to go through and talk about tonight. But with buying, holding, selling, we're going to talk about how you as a collector sort of move through that, and things you can think about for yourself. Is this a book I really care about? Is this something that I want in 20 years? Is this something that I could live without? And just sort of working through that. And because taking in all the information is good, but sometimes it's also good to sort of quiet everything else, push out that information and think, what do I as a collector, what do I want? What am I trying to do with my collection?
100%. Let me say hey to some people in the chat. Geek Aficionado showed up. And then we've got John, DS Comics, Maurice. Lots of great comments, a lot of good stuff. DS Comics, Who Dad, of course, is still here. Rachel Drish, what's going on? It's good to see you. Simple Simon, hello, Simple Simon, not near Mint. Let me make sure. Comics for Thomas. A lot of great people. Make sure that you're participating in the chat. The collectors in the house too. And make sure, because we want to hear from you guys. We'll be reading your comments. And we just want to, you guys participate with us as we're doing this. So, and
before we go on, I just want to say, Alex, that was crazy that your wife said sell it right away, because that's verbatim what my wife said when I told her the price of my comics now. I feel like the ladies, our wives, are having a live stream on speculating on what they should do with our collection in the other room right now. I think that's what they're doing in the other room. I'm pretty sure
they are, yeah. But
can you go check on mommy and see if she's live streaming right now? I think she's doing.
The only difference is, what's your daughter doing in here? Because most of the time, all of our kids are just piled on our wives. And Knights of Khonshu, what's going on? Good to see you. All right.
Yeah, mommy's not home. Okay.
Double A, do we want to go ahead and just start showing books? I think we can. It can organically, good conversation can happen from that. Or what are you thinking, man?
Yeah, we can sort of go through and pick some stuff. So we each picked 3. Do we want to? Who do you want to start?
I can start because I think I have 4 books, so I can start, and then if we want an extra book at the end, I can do an extra book at the end. Okay, one book that, hey Bubs, good to see you, man. One book that I picked.
Blow yourself up, Alex, or make us smaller.
Yeah, for sure, sure. One book that I picked, I just booted you guys off completely, is Avengers #1. This book, I believe, has been severely undervalued for a long time. This is a 2.5 restored, and I'll tell you a little bit of a story about this one. I bought it from Doug Hazelwood. When I bought it from him, I knew who he was because I was a huge fan of The Death of Superman, Return, Reign of Superman, all that good stuff. And so I knew that Doug Hazelwood was the inker on a lot of that stuff. And so I was, fanboying out. He sent me a whole bunch of signed stuff from him. This is an Eric Larson with Doug Hazelwood.
That's awesome.
Yeah, he just sent me a ton of stuff signed, and I really appreciated it. So there is a huge sentimental value on this book. And I'll tell you, I paid at the time $900 for it, thinking it was a 2.0 to a 3.0. And at the time, that was fair market value, full blown for a universal, unrestored, good condition copy. And so when I got it graded, although there's sentimental value, I knew I was upside down on the book. Well, I've looked at this, and a really cool thing, I'm going to screen share. Let me screen share. My phone keeps trying to fall down. I'm putting it over there. Okay, let me screen share Go Collect, a really cool thing you can use on Go Collect. And you can probably do this. I think GPA Analysis has this, but can you see my screen right now?
Yeah, this is great.
Okay, so this is in the Analyzer tool. Actually, let me just go back one and show you how to get to that. Maybe not. Okay, you just push Analyzer. It's one of these buttons at the top when you're on the front page when you search for like Avengers #1. Now, since mine's not a universal, I want to look for restored. So I look at all the restored sales, and my timeline is like 11 years, it looks like. It's going to show me a ton of stuff, but it always pulls up the most recent stuff first. Then I go down. You can look at sales by grade. So if you're looking for a specific book, if you're looking to buy or sell like an 8.5, there's 4 sales you can reference. But I look at sales by date, just kind of gives you what has been selling. Like, show me the most recent stuff that has been selling. Look at this. A 2.5 restored sold on the 1st of March for over $2,000.
Wow.
So my $900 book that I was upside down on is now worth $2,000. And so at this point, it's like, what an awesome book. I mean, those 2.5s restoreds are up 100% in value. And as you can see from my example, yes, they are up, that much. So it's crazy. Like that's my first example. And it's 100% on a restored book.
My feedback on that, or my response to that, is I feel like everything that we knew prior to this new boom, you can throw everything out the door, because we were thinking restored 50% off of the value of Blue Label, or restored is 40% off of value. No longer is the case, because there is new money coming into the market with their own vision of how these books should be valued. And I'm going to talk about that when my book comes up, but it's so interesting that you brought that up, because an Avengers 1, these new collectors might not devalue a restored copy as much as in the past, because in the past where everybody was like, oh, that's a label of death or all of those things. But new money doesn't really care about that. They have their own perspective and their own values. So
100%
it's pretty
too.
crazy. Pretty
And
crazy.
another thing I will mention on that, I used to be one of those guys where secretly, I'm a very broad collector.
Yep.
So if you look at my collection, if you guys came over to my house and looked at my collection, you'd be like, you are all over the place. You've got gold and silver, bronze, modern, variants. You've got everything there is to know.
Live up to your name. Live up to your name, buddy.
Bonix, but I could go to your house and be like, you're a big key blue chip collector. I could go to double A's and I'd be like, you're a Batman collector with blue chip accessories, like with other blue chip big books as accessories. So I know your guys' books, but I used to also be like, I collect moderns and variants, but I'm like, why is that guy collecting moderns and variants when he wants a Hulk 181? He should just be saving his money and go for a Hulk 180. It's no longer like, if you buy a modern variant, it could be $1,000 book next week.
Correct.
So it's like, there's no longer this, like, why are you doing that? It's like, oh, what's he doing? I should probably take a note. Like, I should probably learn from that guy.
I agree.
I don't have to do exactly what he's doing, but at least acknowledge that he probably knows just as much or cares just as much about this hobby than I do. All right.
Yeah.
Sorry, rant over.
Mini rant. That's not
But
bad.
it's a positive thing. We're spreading positivity here about the current market. So, Double A, do you want to go? Do you want to go next? And
sure, I'm gonna do a turtles book. Turtles are fun, right? We like turtles.
Oh wow.
I brought out TMNT #1. This is the third print, not the first or the second print. It's a 9.0 off-white to white pages. I bought this raw a year and a half ago. I bought it in a small collection with about 5 or 6 other books. I sold the rest of them. I kept this one. This book I probably purchased for, when you calculate what I bought the rest of the collection for, I probably got this for the equivalent of about $150, give or take. If you go to Go Collect, and Alex, I don't know if you want to pull up TMNT1 on.
I'm there right now.
Oh, sweet. Yeah.
I'm just looking at it for myself, though, before I show the world.
Yeah. So if you go to Go Collect and pull it up,
I've got it.
TMNT1, and this isn't like a super old book. I mean, it's from 1985, so it's old, but it's definitely not a Silver Age book. This book, in the course of a year, has gone from something that was very, I think, attainable to buy to a book that is
$1,800.
Wow.
Yeah, to a book that's now, I mean, easily always commanding 1,500 plus, always, and I don't think that's going anywhere. Like, I think certain books, I think there's going to be sort of a correction. I don't know when that's going to occur, but books like this that have tons of nostalgia for so many people, and the Turtle faithful are here to stay. And the property, they're still releasing toys. Every once in a while, they release a new movie or a series. It used to be #1, the first print. Then it was the second print. Now all the printings, even the fourth print, is getting in on the action. The explosion is real. So,
Fourth print's cool to me because it's a different cover. Isn't it April? Isn't it April with the turtles?
Yeah. Oh, and as a side note, third prints are getting forged on occasion, so be careful with these guys. There's a couple ways to tell. I mean, so there's blood on the sword in this one. There's a couple little tricks to tell, but be careful when buying these raw, because it's kind of a well-known fact that these get messed with on occasion, unfortunately. Wow. But yeah, this is sort of a prime example of a book that just a year and a half ago was not that crazy. And like Steven said, the new collectors have come in. Nostalgia is money, and boom, TMNT #1 in almost every grade, in almost every printing. An explosion. So
that's awesome. And I've said this before, but it's like, why is it that, or no, it is, the market right now is what used to be a $500 book is a $1,500 book. What used to be a $1,500 book is a $3,000 book. It's super exciting. Like, if you're in this hobby, enjoy it, love it. Like, just ride the train because it's awesome. Bubs Comics is here. Immortal Biggie Shack, what's going on? Dr. Doom and Man Cave is in the house. Good to see you guys. Thank you so much for being here. Bubs said that DS wants a CGC purple label on his tombstone. He's a believer now. I'm sure.
That's a good one.
Simple Simon, it's a magazine size, so that's why it looks different in the slab, because the case is bigger than usual. They're weird books, which probably adds to why the first 4 turtle books are kind of more difficult, because they were awkward to store. They didn't fit in a regular short box and all that kind of stuff.
Trying to figure out how to put Bonix in this. There we go. Gotcha.
All right. So my turn to show my book. And this is a good transition to Aaron, because Aaron mentioned that nostalgia is key for a lot of new collectors. And I think that's a good point to bring up, because these new collectors are into a lot of things that we grew up on, like G.I. Joe, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, 90s X-Men.
Oh, yeah.
Deadpool. I mean, can you guys... I can't even talk about how crazy the prices are on New Mutants 98. So what's crazy about this... And I'm going to put this down. What's crazy about this is... hold on a second. Let me put this back up so it doesn't fall. What's crazy is, to us collectors that have been around for a little bit, I'm not even saying I've been around that long. I've started collecting back again since 2018. And back then the movie, the Deadpool movie came out, and it was already a high book back then, but now it's even triple what it was back then. So what I wanted to bring up about this book is, right now I'm reading off the census. There's 20,000 copies of New Mutants 98. So when comic collectors hear 20,000 of these books, that's in all grades. We're just blown away by that number. That's a huge number to be graded, right? Just to put in perspective, 9.8s, there are 3,900 9.8s. This is a 9.6. There's about 5,600 of them. So to us, those numbers are just crazy. They're very high census counts compared to other books that are of this value. Now, when we look at that, we're just like, wow, 5,000, 4,000 census counts. That's huge for a 9.8. That's the top grade that you can get at 9.8, and there's almost 4,000. But there are new collectors now that are coming into this hobby that are, I'm going to just use this as an example, that are sport card collectors. Let's use basketball, for example. Sport cards, basketball collectors are coming in and say, what? Only 4,000? You guys are saying there's only 4,000 9.8s in New Mutants 98? If they were to get a rookie card of a popular rookie, their 10.0, which is our equivalent of a 9.8, there's 15,000 of those for one rookie. And that's just for a certain brand, like a Prism, Luka Doncic, which is a rookie, a very popular basketball player. His rookie card, there's 15,000 of those Prisms. So they're coming in and scooping up these 9.8s of New Mutants 98, saying, this is a deal. $1,500 for New Mutants 98, that's a deal. I think the price should be way higher than that, because there's only 4,000 available. To them, they just dropped thousands of dollars on a rookie card that has 15,000 of them. Why not invest in something like a Deadpool first appearance for $3,000, almost $3,000, when there's only 4,000 available? So I'm trying to put my mindset into a mindset of a new collector that's coming up from another hobby. And it kind of makes sense if you guys look at it that way. Other collectibles their census count is 15,000, but they're putting thousands of dollars into it for a rookie card. And that's just for one brand of like a Prism brand. For this, New Mutants 98, there's 20,000. That's it. You're not 9.8, there's only 4,000. You're not getting any other brand of New Mutants 98. There's only one 9.8 CGC. There's 4,000 of them. So if you look at it that way, it's very interesting. I mean, I like to keep an open mind of these new collectors. I want to be in their shoes and see why they're investing so much money. And to me, that kind of made sense. So It's pretty interesting.
Yeah, that's a super good point. I think I'd heard that before, whether it was you telling me or somebody else telling me, where the count on cards was so much higher in those higher grades and stuff like that, that when they come over here and they're like, wow, this is an untapped market. This is a pretty
Exactly.
Immature, not immature in the way that like we're immature collectors, immature as in like, this is just a baby, like right now, like let's blow this baby up. Like there's so much potential here.
Yeah, if you look at that way, I mean, I guess $2,000 for New Mutants 98 isn't so crazy when you look at it that way.
Yeah.
Can't believe I said that.
Yeah, I mean, because I was buying this book thinking that my 9.4 could probably sell it for $400-500 maybe if I was lucky. Add double that and get a 9.8. Well, that's no longer going to happen. That's not available anymore. So,
yeah.
You want me to show my next book?
Let's go for it.
Yeah, let's do it.
I'm going to stay on the modern train and show a book that today, it wasn't on my list to show, but today I saw a post and I was like, well, I better look that baby up. This is I'll make this big, but this was like a $300 book
last year,
not too long ago. Yeah, when I got this graded, it was like, oh, awesome, $300 book. And there's like that. You could have got these for maybe like $80 to $100 in pretty good condition.
Wow.
And then you get them graded. Luckily, I got this 9.8. And so today I saw somebody posting like, is this real life? Is it that I started messaging you guys like
real life.
Comic book collecting. Is this actually like real life right now? I felt like it was the Mandela effect, but let me look up. So Gambit, if you grew up, born in the 80s, grew up in the 90s, Gambit is going to be one of your favorite X-Men. I have a pretty safe bet there that Gambit's going to be one of your favorites. Let me share my screen now and show you guys what I'm looking at. All right, so Uncanny X-Men 266. Now, some of these numbers here, when you see like $9,000, this fair market value may be a little low. So I'm going to go to the analyzer here. I'm clicked on Universal. The date ranges, go up to today's date. So we will see, and it's it takes a couple of days to upload recent sales data. But as you can see here, look at that.
There it is, $1,210
for the first appearance of Gambit. Now let's try to find the sale before that, like the last 9.8. Once again, it was on the 15th for $1,225. Let's see if there's another one. 15, $1,150.
They're all this. They're like literally this week. All of them are like this week.
Yeah. Blowing up.
And that's the market now. Like if you don't like the price, wait a week. It's gonna change.
It's gonna go up.
That's just wait a week. It'll be different.
Or with that same thought process, it's like if you want to get $1,200 for your book, if you wait next week, it might be $1,300. Let's see what they sold for. Okay, so even like on the 9th, under $1,000. Under $1,000, just flirting around with that $1,000.
There you go.
Let's see what it was in February. In February, 900. Okay, so in February it was 1,000. Wow,
so many copies sold too. Look at that. It's like these are all 9.8s sold. I think we just saw like maybe 10 copies within 2 weeks. That's a lot.
Yeah, it's moving, and then there's a lot out there. Let's look at. You mentioned your CGC. You mentioned the CGC census. Let's look at what the census on here is. Sometimes I don't feel like Go Collect, nothing against them, but I don't feel like their census is always up to date. The best way to look at it is on CGC website, of course, but there's, 3,259 total, 2,700 universal, lots of signatures.
Yeah.
And then there's actually 15 9.9s.
Wow.
There might be more on the CGC census, but like 15,000 copies of this book, which to us is a lot of copies of a great character, but it's moving upwards. What was once a $300-400 book is now a $1,000 book.
And the movie hasn't even come out yet. I mean, can you imagine an X-Men movie coming out?
Yeah.
I don't even know what the ceiling would be. Yeah.
DS Comics, that's funny. There's your first mistake.
Yeah, exactly. Double A, you ready? You want to share something good?
And actually, shout out to the chat real quick. Simple Simon, the difference between a 9.8 and 9.6 is crazy. That's actually a great segue into this book. So I bought this book raw, same thing, bought it raw like a year ago. I sent it in thinking it would be a 9.2 or 9.4. It came back a 9.6, which is fantastic. So first appearance, Kitty Pryde, White Queen, Sebastian Shaw. Basically, I saw the first appearances in this and I went, wow, this book actually isn't that bad compared to Giant Size and X-Men 1 and all the other books. And now, all of a sudden, this has become, even in the past couple of weeks, I can't tell you the amount of people who have DM'd me specifically, do you have an X-Men 129 and will you sell it?
Dang.
Wow.
And there's just sort of, it feels like there's this frantic search for this book at the moment. So, and that's something I appreciate the chat bringing this up. The difference between a 9.8 and a 9.6, I used to hear quite a bit when I first came into the hobby. A 9.8 is what you want for anything, anything modern, even anything kind of late bronze. You want to get as close to 9.8 as possible. I almost think the 9.8 mentality, in my opinion, it's still there, but I think a lot more collectors are okay with the 9.6, the 9.4, because you still get a great presenting book at a fraction of the cost. I mean, the difference in this book between a 9.6 and a 9.8 is so staggering at this point. And this is a book that's grown exponentially over the past year.
It's nuts. Look at this. Like the fair market value for a 9.6 is $525, but it's $1,000 book now. So
yeah, but then you go to recent sales and it's like 900, 1,000.
Yeah, let's
maybe
go to the
if you're
analyzer.
really lucky, you get one under 9.
No, the last sale was on the 17th yesterday for $1,077.
Wow.
Yeah.
That has to be a record.
Well, look at the huge discrepancy though this was, over a week ago on the 6th for a 9.4. So the market hasn't probably caught up on 9.4s yet. It'll be different, I'm sure.
Yeah. And that's, so especially when I'm talking to newer collectors,
3,000 for a 9.8.
Yeah, that's what's happened.
Is that wow?
And there's this push, and there's nothing wrong with getting, in my opinion, a 9.0, a 9.2, a 9.4 that presents well, and skipping out on the 9.8 a little bit because the premium for the 9.8 has become so crazy.
Insane.
It's
really blown up.
Aaron,
and
can
even
we talk about this? A 9.8 sold on February 24th for $2,700. Okay, you think I might offer 28, 29. Oh, well, in March, it sold for $3,150. So we talked about this a little bit. February sales, for the most part, are irrelevant.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter what happened and Discovery Bay's in the house. Good to see you. It doesn't matter what happened. Well, it does matter. It certainly does, because you can see that upward slope, that really sharp trending upward. But sales in February. So if you're trying to sell a book that has no sales, but books around it, grades around it have had sales, you need to go to like a point price per point basis on pricing your book, because if the book didn't sell since like 2 months ago or even last month in February, it's not going to be an accurate grade or price for your grade. So You know what I'm saying?
It's absolutely true now. Yeah.
And I think with all this, I want to stress, because I think a lot of people are concerned about being left out. I think in a lot of my conversations, I'm stressing patience more and more. So I guess what I would say is, and maybe this is glass half full perspective, this is not going, there's no way that some of these books can continue to grow at this rapid of a rate indefinitely, right? Like if you chart this growth, I mean, in 5 years, some of these books would be worth like $100,000, right? And I don't care how much I love a book. If I have a book that I bought for $200 and it goes to 100,000, I'm selling it, right? So there is going to be a line somewhere. It's just, where is that line? Where is that correction gonna come?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Or we're all gonna be millionaires in 5 years, which is cool.
Hold that front line. Hold.
But
Hold.
You got.
Feel like the gladiator, when the general's telling his
yeah.
Is that Gladiator, or is there also one like William Wallace? Hold.
So many when they're telling everybody to just hold.
Yeah.
Dude, I just hold.
Automatic comics.
I hold is because I'm just so emotionally attached. And I'm like, I was always one of those collectors too, where I'm a terrible flipper. I could buy a comic that like cover price at the shop because I knew it was a hot book that week. And instantly I could have sold it for like $35 online, but I'm like, but what if it goes up to 120 next week? And then it goes up to 120 next week. And then I'm like, now I've got $120 book.
Yeah.
Because someone's buying that book because they're like, that's $120 awesome book, hot book. And now I'm like, that's an awesome $100 hot book. So I keep it long enough to like miss out on the hotness of it.
That's the game you play, yo.
I'm a bad flipper. That's why I can't play the game. But Discovery Bay's in the house. Brandon Soyinski's in the house. Good to see you. And then Brent Morrow's in the house. He says he has a Wolverine 9.8. It's going for $200. Wait a week. It'll probably be $1,000 book. Just take that for a grain of salt. I'm just saying it might not be, but And then Comics and Stuff is in the house. Good to see you. Question. Hold on. Here we go. Do we grade said book and then have to wait until it's graded, or sell the same raw book? Now, books, there's this misconception, and I think ETA Nick, we reference ETA Nick a lot, but he's very knowledgeable in this stuff. There's this misconception that you can only get true value if you grade it. Raw books are selling a lot too. There's a raw Daredevil #1, I think, sold for a crap ton of money recently on eBay, just because it looked good. The pictures presented well and someone was confident enough to buy it, and they probably got a good deal. But if you wait, you might be able to get a little bit more for your investment when you put in the time to. What do you guys think about that?
Go ahead, Aaron.
Yeah. So for me, it's book to book. So certain books are just, I find them easier to sell graded because there's an assigned number to them, and it takes some of the subjective nature of a grade. Because as a buyer, you're going to try and point out every single flaw in the book to try and bring the price down. And as a seller, you're going to try and maximize. Where if there's a grade on the book, it just becomes not completely objective, but more objective. This is the grade. These are kind of the approximate ranges. And then you can sort of go from there. On bigger books, I personally don't like selling really big books raw. That's my opinion. That doesn't mean it's wrong to sell them raw, but I just find it easier. And it helps put the buyer at ease too, right? Because CGC has checked for restoration, particularly on older books. If there's any glaring issues, it'll be on the label most of the time. But some people don't like graded books. So that's also something you have to take into account. I work with people on Instagram and they don't like their books graded. They want them raw, which is great. So all things to consider. I also think it helps that for me, I collect, like, my major Batman books are all graded. That's just something I enjoy doing. So
yeah, I totally agree with that. And my thing is I'm more of a bronze and silver age collector. I don't collect too much in the modern. And I know modern is a totally different game when it comes to if you want them graded or not. Because when you grade a modern, it can take 4 months to get that book back. And by then, if you're trying to sell a hot book, that book's probably, that might have already passed. So you have to put that into consideration. Is it, are you doing it to flip? If you're doing it to flip, it might not make sense because it's going to take 4 months for you to get it back. For me, I agree with you on that, Aaron, where you want to grade so that there is a peace of mind on both seller and buyer, that there's been a professional third party that has assigned a grade to it, appraised it, and you guys can both agree what a fair value is. So
Yeah.
as both buyer and seller, grading is definitely helpful, but it's not for everyone. So
and people don't always agree with this, with the assigned grade of the grader. But that being said, if you get a 6.0 back, you know it's not a 2.0 and you know it's not a 9.0, right? Even if you disagree with the assigned grade, there's still what I would consider a range where, okay, where I definitely know what it's not though. If it's a 6.0, it's not near mint and it's not a VG, right? I know what it is, even if I don't agree with the grade. And that's kind of the positive of it.
There you go. So I hope that helps the question.
There's always those, you go to the garage sales and they're like, all these books are in great condition. And it's like a book from last year with tons of spine ticks. And you're like,
yeah, vintage mint 90s 5.0s. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah.
That's true. I mean, there were some really good points here. Like Discovery Bay says that, and Bearded Comic Bros in the house. Thank you so much for being here. So Discovery Bay says he feels that the correction will be a leveling off period for a period. The gains can't continue, like Aaron said, and the new money will eventually run out. But there's still opportunity for more new money to come in. You know, we're lighting a bonfire right here. New money is like lighting a bonfire, and it's exciting to watch. Like, I'm not going to scoff at new money because we all buy these books thinking they're going to appreciate in value. Well, guess what? They're appreciating in value right now. So if we're sitting here scoffing at that and like looking down on it, like, why would we chase off what we want? No. Like, come on in, like, guys, let's do this smart. Let's do this together. Let's you teach me, I'll teach you. But I don't think we should run or have this perception that like, this is bad. Maybe it's bad because I can't get a 4.0 X-Men #1 anymore. I'll have to settle for my 2.5. Maybe that's the sucky part about it. But my 2.5 is worth like 9 times what it was when I bought it.
Yeah.
So that's a good thing. It's an awesome thing.
That's probably the one thing where I haven't completely understood is anytime, I mean, we've all heard the expression, there's no such thing as bad press. And I almost think the comic community should take a little bit more of that to heart, where it's like a lot of people are interested in your hobby at the moment. And that's good. I mean, that's what you want. More and more people interested. I think it may mean you have to make more tactical choices when deciding which book you're going to go after, if it's a bigger book. But
that's what it is right there.
Yeah. So great.
And Comics with Bueller's in the house. We talked about Comics with Bueller earlier, where there's a lot of attention in the comic book community, in the YouTube comic book community. The door is wide open. The bigger channels are really, they're the easiest ones to find on YouTube when newer collectors or newer investors or whatever they are, when they're looking for information. You got your Gem Mints, you got your Comic Toms, you got your Comics with Bueller's. They're easy to find. And they're opening the door wide open to our community. And we should be welcoming these people in, giving them content, giving them stuff to watch, enjoy, learn, share in the hobby, enjoy being a part of the hobby. And it's awesome stuff. It's so good. And it's really exciting. That's why we made it a point. We're not here complaining about the current market at all. Like, we're all pretty jazzed up about it. We could be sour about missing out on some big books, but we're all pretty jazzed up about what's going on right now.
And I think if you ask the panel, most of us have at least 1 or 2 books that we wish we had that we don't. Mm-hmm. So it's not even this, well, it's easy for you to say you have all the books you want, but if you ask most comic book collectors, there's at least 1 or 2 books out there that they really want that they don't have at the moment.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
One thing I've always said, 9.2 used to say this a lot, and we learned it from the Doom. Like, we taught each other a lot about comic books. We're all seasoned comic book collectors, but we all were different comic book collectors. Excuse me. And one thing that Doom would always say, and we kind of had it as a mantra: look where other people aren't looking. Like, if the hottest book on the planet is White Vision, go after Swamp Thing. Mm-hmm. Like, great point. If you had Swamp Thing on your list, it might be a good time to start looking at Swamp Thing, because White Vision is stealing all the bandwidth right now. You may want to look at the first appearance of Ray Palmer in Showcase 34. You know, if that's a book that's on your list, you may want to look at that book. I don't know what those books are doing. That's just an analogy of like, look where people aren't looking, and then you'll find. And I'll also make a list. I know Immortal Biggie Shack does a really good job. I try to do a good job of at least having a 2021 hunt list, and I stray from that a little bit, but I know for the most part, I want these certain Golden Age books. I would like to upgrade this Silver Age book. And so I know I at least have an idea of what I want. So thoughts on that, guys? Anything?
Yeah, I mean, that actually segues perfectly into my last book, Go After What People Aren't.
Go on, lad.
It's not so much the case anymore, but so this is Batman Beyond #1. First comic book appearance of Terry McGinnis. I bought this book raw. I didn't buy 9.8. I bought it 2 years ago because I grew up with the Batman Beyond show. I like Batman Beyond. I don't remember anybody talking about this book when I bought it. And I sent it in to get clean pressed and graded, and it came back at 9.8, and I was like, wow, that's really crazy. And fast forward to now, where this book, the recent sales, I mean, this is a $2,500 to $3,000 book, which is wild to me because this had a cult following, but this felt a lot more fringe, I guess, when I got into it. And now even the other issues 2 through 6, those are all going up.
$2,500 in February. And so that's probably not even quote unquote, like we would say, accurate.
And I'm pretty sure there was a Comic Link auction where it broke 3,000.
Wow.
And so the point is this is great now, but the point is when I went after this was not an in book. This was not a book that a lot of people were talking about. I don't remember it being a big deal. This was just a book that I liked. And I think if you collect long enough, what's up, Off-White Tim? I just see you in here, brother. I think this is a good object lesson for what are the characters and the stories that you find compelling and that you like. And, you know, if other people are into those, as Alex just said, you know, maybe try going after other ones. But this is sort of like a happy accident. I wasn't getting on Instagram going, I'm a genius. You're all going to see in 2 years. Like, that's not what happened. I just bought something that I enjoyed. And then here we are. So
yeah, that's so good. I've never been like, to be honest, that book could go $10,000 and I'll still probably not ever be super into it. I didn't grow up as a Batman Beyond fan. I can appreciate it. I like the concept of it, but I was like the last animated Batman thing that I watched was that like Phantasm of the Batman or what, you know what I'm talking about? Like Mask of the Phantasm or something like that. Like that was the last animated thing I saw. And I was like, I feel like I'm a little too old for this. I don't know if I enjoy this. Like, where's Michael Keaton? Like, what's going on? So like, I totally get it. Like you had the affinity for it because that's what you grew up with. And so while no one else was looking for it, well, people were specking on it. People were buying it, but it wasn't $3,000. It was just like $1,000 maybe at the most.
It was an interesting book, and there were a few people putting copies away, but it was nowhere near. And I think there's at least a couple dozen books that fit that category, where these were books, you know, you could kind of just go get one if you wanted one. It wasn't that big of a deal. And now, I mean, I looked online before we hopped on. A raw copy is going to run you $500 now, which is crazy to me.
That's awesome.
But some of that is fueled by, you know, the rumor cycle, which I'm not going to get into. But I think some of it is fueled by genuine interest in the character. And Jerry, yeah, I kind of agree. It is kind of nuts that a book that modern, even though it does have the 1999 books do have a slightly lower print run. It is wild to me when a book that modern is way more expensive than like a Golden Age book. It does kind of blow my mind a little bit, but that's what people want.
Yeah, so. That's what actually great point. Look where other people aren't looking right now. I mean, some of the books that I'm looking for in the Golden Age haven't really budged much. And so I don't know if the new collectors or I keep hating to say like the new collectors because I feel like that's a negative connotation, or like the new money, the new collectors. That's a negative connotation. Whoever's buying the comic books is not they're looking for blue chip Marvel books. They're looking for blue chip first appearances. They may not be looking for like a standard adventure comics, which I may have bought one yesterday. I don't know. From 1944. I don't know if I did or not. Jack Kirby, Joe Simon.
And those collectors could mature where maybe, I mean, when I first came back in, I was into more modern books and variants. Then I was like, oh, I'd like a couple Silver Age books. And then it's turned into what it is now. So there could be a trajectory where, who knows, maybe the hobby could be transformed in a lot of ways in 4 or 5 years.
Yeah, 100%. See, that's what I don't understand. And now DS is going to be pissed because I'm going to bring attention to the Golden Age. But the Golden Age had some amazing. If I had $1,000 to spend on like buy a book with cool characters, just like doesn't matter what the value is, you just have $1,000 to spend, or if there's upward potential, man, I'm probably going to be looking at like an all select book or something like that with where you got Captain America, Human Torch, and Submariner. I mean, from the Golden Age, from the 40s, like that's so cool to me.
Doesn't get better than that. Yeah,
that's where I'm going to be looking. So let's go with Steven. Let's show one more book for you.
One more book. Okay.
Well,
so
do you have two more books or one more book?
I think we're running low, so I'm going to show one more book, but I am going to show a couple books and kind of like a brief thing afterwards. But this is my last book to show as far as the comic book market and what I'm going to talk about. So, if you guys,
hey.
Hey.
I'm on the screen. Hey, yo, people
so just a little bit
less than that, man.
So just a little bit about this book before I show it is I changed my collecting starting in the pandemic started. I used to only collect runs. That's all I did. I loved going after runs of my favorite titles. When the pandemic started, I took a good look at my collection and said, I'm not so happy with it anymore. I even organized it to how I love to see them, and I wasn't happy with it anymore. And I was just like, I don't have the biggest first appearances of my favorite characters. So this is a little bit off of the Gem Mint state of mind, is that you need to work from the top down. And that's what I did, is I flipped all my books and I got myself Amazing Fantasy 15 in a 3.0. So that's what I did. I pretty much flipped 80% of my collection. My collection used to be about 6,000 books. It's now down to about 1,500. And this is what I flipped all those books to get. I feel like, let me just put this aside so I can, so I don't have to hold it up.
But what an achievement, man. That's amazing.
So I feel like when you go for something like this, it's a different animal altogether. You can ask as many people as you like, the dealers, or you can ask other members in the community. They're all going to say, nope, it's not for sale. It's my copy. It's my personal copy. This is dealers talking or big community members talking. How do you pull something from their personal collection? It's almost impossible. So the competition when you're buying an Amazing Fantasy 15 was super fierce. It probably took me about 3 months of every day of just researching and talking to other people, finding out who has a copy that I can even potentially get a hold of. So I eventually bought this copy June of 2020. And if you guys remember, that was the down market. Everything was going for relatively low as far as the blue chip Marvel keys. You can get a Hulk 1. You can get a Fantastic Four #1. You can get Amazing Fantasy 15 for all-time lows. Lower than they were in 2018. So nobody was selling. Everybody was holding on hard. So my point of all this is that I feel like if you're looking for blue chip keys, you have to be really, you pretty much have to move on the copy if you see a really good deal, because they don't come very often. And plus, if you look at the prices now, it's pretty much gone insane for this book. So
yeah, so when you bought it, it was around, it's flirting in the mid-teens. There's high sales of like Am I looking at the right thing? Because these look insane. Yeah.
Yep, you're looking at the right one. So roughly around June, I mean, you can get an idea of a fair market value in June of 2020. So there you go. So May, June, right there.
Yeah,
So there you go.
Right around the
So
mid.
that was 9 months ago. Let's call that 9 months ago, right? So now, there it is. So now, I really don't know who is in the market for these books that they're going up that much in value, because I feel like it could be investors. Now, one of the points I wanted to make was investors are looking for ways to invest their portfolio and diversify. So why not diversify $20,000 in a blue chip Marvel key when you can have investment go up? So I think that's part of the reason why the values of this book has gone up. What I wanted to mention also is when you're looking for these keys now, if you talk to reputable dealers, they're like, don't even look at GPA. That's no longer valid. And I'm like, what do you mean it's not valid? What do I have to base off of to offer you now? Do I have to offer 20% over GPA? He's like, it really is moving that fast. So I'm not saying it's really hard to negotiate nowadays for these books, but that's really what some of the things I've kind of come across when I've tried to buy some of these books now, because they're really they're not listing them at GPA at all. It's like 30 to 50% higher. So it's pretty crazy.
Yeah, it's nuts. The GPA record's being set like every week. This book, it's kind of crazy because it was pretty high to begin with. So the gains you're seeing here of like 20% gain, it looks great. You'll see like a 13% gain, 13% gain, but other books you'll be seeing like 30% gain up and down the chart, but you can see like the asking prices. These books just aren't going to be available at that under 20 grand level for that 3.0. I mean, it's going to be very hard for a dealer to let go with the way that prices are going for the grail of the Silver Age blue chip Marvel books. As you can see, this one's asking 30 grand, 27. Now those are asking prices, but just to be able to find one, for what fair market, quote unquote, fair market value is going to be very, very difficult. It's going to be, maybe even like a desperation thing, or I want to put my money into something else type thing, cash out and put my money into something else. So it's hard to value some of those big books where they're, it's crazy. It's craziness. Hey, Dylan, what's going on? Comic Head 84 and Two Brothers Comics, collectible paper. Jill, good to see everybody. It's good to see James Howard. Thank you, everybody, for being here. If you can leave a thumbs up. I'll also be leaving the links for these other two gentlemen in the description below. So check out their channels afterwards. If you're not already subscribed to them, make sure to hit them up, subscribe, and check out their delicious videos. Yeah. Let me show. Can I show one more? Because this is one that I'll
do it.
I'll talk about. Like I wanted to upgrade. Like I see D-Runk Comics with a 4.5 of this book, and I'm like, I really like my book. I've always liked my book. It's a 2.5 X-Men #1, and Bonix, you've got the same grade. It's got this amazingly beautiful date stamp right there. Can you guys see that date stamp? August 10th, 1963.
I really like a good date stamp.
That date stamp looks so good to me. I bought this book for delicious content automatically. I bought that book for $1,700.
My gosh.
And then I bought a second copy, which came back at 2.5 for $1,500. And that was back in maybe 16, 17, something like that. I'm going to look it up here. Am I sharing this? Let me add this too. So I did like the $100 grading. So it came back in a week. Let me search up X-Men #1. You guys saw my search history there. All my secrets are being revealed. So let me just go to let's go to the analyzer and see what's been selling. So 2.5, I was like, man, I'd like to upgrade. Okay, 3.0, which a 3.0 is to me more desirable than a 2.5.
Mhm.
I would rather have a 3.0. Obviously, just that round number looks great.
$15,000.
$15,000. A 0.5 sold for $4,000, which would have been a great price for my 2.5,
Yup.
months ago. Let me see when the last 2.5, a 3.0 sold for like $10,000. But like I said, this was in February. That's no longer relevant.
Oh my gosh.
It's $5,000 more. The last 2.0 sold in January for $6,000. Let's see.
Oh, Automatic just said a 4.0 X-Men 1 sold today for 19,000.
Yeah,
Oh,
that's the
I
one I
heard
sent
about
you
that.
guys
Yes.
on Instagram.
Oh my gosh.
But that's just what I mean. I can't find a recent sale that's in March. There's something happened, the Mandela effect or something like in where are they doing the atom smashing and stuff like that in like Switzerland or something?
Could be, I'm not sure.
You know what I'm saying? You know what I'm talking about? They must have like smashed an atom, opened up some black hole, other dimension or something like that. Something happened between February and March. Everyone's like, wait a second. Alex had one of those like aluminum on their head, guys.
Yeah, exactly. This is the X-Files now.
I'm hearing a ringing in my ear right now, guys. Hold on. Something's about to change. But something happened. Yeah, CERN, Switzerland. Yes, Geek Aficionado. You know
There
exactly
you
what I'm talking about.
You're not the only one.
So something happened between, January, of course, December and January, like the prices look great. Like back then we're like, wow, the prices are out of control. I honestly did an Excel spreadsheet and valued my collection of all my slabs.
Mm-hmm.
And it's so outdated. I just did it like 2 months ago. It's so outdated right now.
You have to do it every 5 days now.
I know.
It's crazy. I don't have time to do that.
Yeah.
Man. All right, just to go off of what you showed there, I'll be right back. I'm gonna show one more book. Be right back.
Okay. Sounds good. Hold, please. Hold, everyone.
All right, so we're gonna
hold.
We're gonna get the chat involved in this because this is kind of a crazy question to me. You guys can't look at the chat yet, but I'm gonna get your guys' question answer for this. Let's say both the grades are equal for the book that you just showed and the book I'm about to show. Which one's gonna have the higher value in 5 years? Let me show you. This book or X-Men 1? What do you guys think?
Oh, that is so tough.
So isn't this tough? I was thinking about this. I was like, X-Men 1 is gonna surpass Fantastic Four 1 in my opinion.
Are we Twinkies on both?
I'm not gonna even say that. What do you got? I'm sorry. Say it again.
Are we Twinkies on both books?
Yeah, we are. Yeah,
okay.
You have 1.8 on this one too. So go ahead, chat. Say which one you guys think in 5 years will be the more valuable compared grades. But you guys are gonna. I want to get your guys' input, Aaron.
And then Bonnet will tell you if you're right or wrong.
No, I just want to know because I have my own opinion. I just spoiled my own opinion, but
shout out to the immortal Biggie Shack. I actually not just, but I got an X-Men 12 over the past year, first Juggernaut. That's actually another, I think, in the top 10 of X-Men books that people think still has room, which is scary that book still has room. But yeah, that's another great book.
2 books that we have the same. What's going on, Alex? We were shopping at the same places.
I guess so, or we just like we can afford the same books, the same price level.
Hey, our wives are in the same industry. We just learned that today.
Oh yeah, they are.
Isn't that crazy? Yeah, but that's crazy. So who wants to go first? Because you guys are gonna answer my question. In 5 years,
he had 1.8 Fantastic Four #1, and his is for sale right now.
Oh, okay.
I liked your price before, DS, when it was like 11.
So maybe Alex, you can answer that. In 5 years, which book is going to have the higher value, X-Men 1 or Fantastic Four?
Okay, it's super tough, but I'm always going to say even a 1.8 versus an X-Men 2.5, I'm always going to say that the FF is going to be more valuable because of the fact that it is. Now, of course, we're talking about multiple first appearances in both books.
Yeah.
But I'm a huge X-Men fan. I was an X-Men fan before a Fantastic Four fan. But Fantastic Four, the history of of what it did for comics, of the history of what it did for Marvel. It birthed out of the womb of Fantastic Four came all of Marvel.
Yeah.
So what do you guys think about that? Is that a good point?
I think that's a good point. Yeah, I think the significance of FF1 is huge. It's just to be able to have that start a whole universe is, I don't think that can be overlooked. So I agree with the significance. Now the value is more of what I was thinking about, like which one's going to be more valuable.
The thing is, I think I would put myself into this category as a somewhat not new. I've been reading comics a while, but as far as collecting single issues, I'm newer. I think the X-Men is the more immediately recognizable group because of the cartoons. There's been more movies. The Fantastic Four movies, while they've been around, they haven't hit the same way the X-Men movies have. You've got some like iconic actors who have done some of the roles of the X-Men. So I think the X-Men long term, and at the moment it feels like that's what the market thinks too, because all the X-Men books are just rocketing. Even books, I mean, X-Men 1 in giant size, sure, but all the keys all the way down, the next 15, 20, 30 major X-Men keys have all seen major growth over the past couple of years. It's wild. And now that being said, the Fantastic Four run, you've got FF 48, 49, 52, Annual 6. I mean, there's a lot of big Fantastic Four books too. So
all the Inhumans.
Yeah.
And you've got for great Scrolls. You've got Scrolls, which are a huge independently successful, I guess, character or, hot topic in the MCU already. I mean, they're already hugely popular in comics. Let's see here. Comic Head 84 said, which one is worth more now? It's FF, right? Because I always thought even my FF 1.8 was worth more than my X-Men 2.5, but I don't know.
I think FF is still higher by just a tad. After seeing that 4.0 go for almost 20 grand, though, it's getting close.
Yeah.
But there you go, Dr. Doom. You were asking to show my FF5, but let's do it.
Let's see that. Let's see that one up close.
Oh, you want to see that up close? So this one was my newest edition. This one is a little bit. I think there's a debate on what collectors prefer, but in my opinion, I don't really mind it. Is the binder holes. There are binder holes through this whole book here, but otherwise it is pretty immaculate as far as condition wise. But the binder holes pretty much maxed out the grade at 3.5. It's a 3.5 white pages, and the colors on this are pretty spectacular, and there is absolutely no chipping on this one. Really no big creases. So I think the binder holes pretty much capped out this book at a 3.5. So if anybody ever wanted to know what binder holes can do to a book grade wise at CGC, 2 holes will bring it down to a 3.5. But
it's still it's such an important book. So hard to get. It's so important that I can look past those. I can look through them, but I can look past those.
Yes.
Through them, past them, around them. Fantastic Four, I'll never let go.
Yeah, I will never let go. Jack, hold on. Hang on for yourself, Jack, because I can't hold you any longer. Okay, let me show one thing too. Here's another example too. Daredevil #1. Okay, so this this book is from 1964. So a year after X-Men. It was kind of I would consider still in that first wave of X-Men. Even Sergeant Fury is kind of still in that first wave of superheroes. I can't remember when Doctor Strange was released. Was it 65? It was probably around this time too, 64.
Yeah.
But then you get into your second wave, which is like the 65, 66, which is like the Silver Surfers and all those books. But Daredevil is still in that first wave of Marvel superheroes. I C2E2 a couple years ago Midwest Scotsman was there, and I don't live too far away from Chicago, but I wasn't able to go. I've just never really been made C2E2 a priority. And so, oh, sorry, comics with Bonix. Hello. But this one is a 4.0, and I'll show you what I paid. Oh, wait, there's my number on the back. Never mind. My phone number. The paper is still on the back from when I bought it. I paid $1,500 for this book. At the time,
Wow.
I had huge buyer's remorse. I was like, I just paid $1,500 for Daredevil number 1. I love Daredevil. I love Matt Murdock. I actually really enjoy reading this story. And I was like, oh, that hurts. I did the deal at church. Like, you guys know I make comic deals at church.
Yes. He wears his I buy comics at church. That's how he does it, guys. That's a secret. No, I'm just kidding.
I think if Jesus were back, he would probably toss the tables. And he'd be like, hey, no comic deals in my house. He would toss the tables at me.
I'm giving everybody ideas there. No, I was kidding.
But he'd also forgive me and love me. But 4.0, $1,500 a few years ago, just sold on the 6th of March for $4,200.
The chat's going crazy. They're like, in church.
In church. What? Yeah, I was on the phone with the dealer in church. Sunday, C2E2. I'm like, bro, I'm at church. I'm in the lobby right now. Can we do $1,500? I know you got it for $1,650, but I could PayPal you $1,500 right now. The pastor's in there talking about like tithing, and I'm like, bro, I got $1,500. Honey, what you got in your purse for tithing? That's bad.
I love it. Love it.
I'm gonna get a lightning bolt on
no judgment. It's all love. I appreciate that, Tim. Yeah, no judgment.
There you go. No judgment. Nice.
But yeah, so okay, is it safe to say, guys, with as we're seeing X-Men like 2.5 going up to like 10 grand, 10 grand, FF1 1.8 going up to, can we say an Avengers 1 at like $2,500 for a 2.5? Can we say a Daredevil 1 at a 4.0? Are they still undervalued?
Oh man, that's a great question.
They're certainly okay. So here's the deal, and I won't. You guys can have your comment too. X-Men number 1 has always been here. Daredevil 1 has always been here, but X-Men 1 is going like this. Daredevil 1's going like this.
Yeah.
So you know what I'm saying? It's still undervalued compared to the market.
Yeah. I don't say it's undervalued. I look at it as more of the demand is getting corrected, because X-Men 1 was always, or X-Men 1 or X-Men in general, the franchise was always popular among enthusiasts, comic book enthusiasts. And it was always so much less than ASM 1 or Fantastic Four 1. However, the impact to pop culture of X-Men is huge, and I think we're seeing a correction now, and the demand is speaking for itself, the market's speaking for it. So I think that's why Daredevil and X-Men, they've kind of sat at the bottom of the list for so long now. It's getting corrected, where the market's now saying, no, you guys deserve to be at least tier 2 or tier 1, because it's always been Hulk 1, Fantastic Four 1. Amazing Fantasy 15 was top tier. X-Men was always 2 or 3.
Yep.
Now X-Men's climbing.
Second tier. Yep.
So I think it's about climbing the tiers. It's no longer undervalued. It's more, hey, we belong with the big boys now. So.
Yeah,
that's a good point. Card Shop Reality says that it does have a lot more first appearances. True guy.
Yeah, true enough point. I think the other thing that I kind of wonder about when just watching everything is, and if you're on Instagram or any kind of social media, or even back when there was cons, occasionally you would go to someone's booth and they'd have 8 of 1 of the same book. There's definitely collectors, dealers, enthusiasts out there. One book is not enough. They have 2, 3, 6 of the same book because they really believe in it. So I also wonder too if there are, and I'm sure there are, if there are certain people and they're just buying the books and just straight up taking them off the market. Like they're buying them, they're putting them aside, and in their mind, they're not even going to consider doing anything with them for for 10 years or 20 years. So that's in the back of my mind. That's the other thing I kind of think about with, is it under or overvalued? I mean, that question can change probably really rapidly year to year. I mean, if someone comes into the hobby and all of a sudden starts buying a lot of one book and then not re-releasing it into the wild, as it were, essentially trying to put kind of a chokehold on the supply.
Yeah.
Because every once in a while you've seen Instagram posts where I've seen posts where someone has, and it seems crazy to me, they have like 6 X-Men 1s.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yep.
you're like,
Yep.
that's a lot of X-Men 1. I mean, it's a huge amount of X-Men 1. So I definitely think there are people who are banking on, oh yeah, I'm going to have this for a long time. And they upgrade, but then they don't want to get rid of their downgrade.
Yeah.
So
Tech 31 has a really awesome story. If you can catch some of his videos or his interviews on YouTube, it's super fascinating, to where this guy has had amazing books, Fantastic Four runs, stuff like that, just unbelievable stuff. And he sold some of those things. I can't remember if it was like hard to sell them or pretty easy to sell them, but to get the golden age grails that he has. And the guy's collection is really unmatched. And he's been around. He was saying right here, another flashback, Spidey 1 in very good condition on the wall for $220 when I was 2 years old. And then another one was when he said, I remember when Spidey 1 was more valuable or greater than AF-15.
Yeah.
So that Immortal Biggie brings up a good point. What are the books to stay away from? I would say in general, books, particularly more modern books that get really hot really quickly based on a rumor that can't be confirmed, I just ignore all of that. I don't even care. It's great if people are into it, if they like a book and they enjoy a book. I'm never going to tell someone, if you like it, good for you. But I tend to just ignore anything that hits any kind of top 10 list and it's from the past 20 years and it's pure speculation. It's like a rumor of he said, she said. I completely disregard, don't try and buy it, ignore it. That's just my opinion.
Yeah.
I like it. Now, see, I don't necessarily ignore it. I make a mental note because I know if I find that book, like I'll be honest with you guys, I watch Comic Tom and I enjoy it for entertainment value. I don't think Comic Tom, I know he knows that he has impact on the market. I know he knows that when he mentions a book, I think they've been in the last several months a little bit more responsible with what they're saying. They will give disclaimers. Him and Russ will give disclaimers. I'm not speaking for Tom because I don't know him. I've messaged him once, like in the last 5 years, and I got a response back. I don't know him. No clue.
Yeah.
He has no clue who I am.
And he's not, it's funny because tons of people do top 10 lists, but for some reason he's the one who always gets brought up, even though there's so many channels doing top 10 lists and everyone's doing it the right way. Just ask them, they'll tell you. But I think the top 10 lists are good because they bring in a lot of interest. But I agree, Alex, with your approach where you make a mental note. If you see it somewhere and you're out and about, that's cool. But those are books that like you said, I wouldn't actively go to eBay for and search out, especially once an announcement's been made.
And this is what my advice will be, because this is what I'm doing. I wouldn't tell you guys to do anything that I wasn't doing myself. Have an idea in mind of what you want. What do you want your collection to look like? Now, I'm not going to be like, I have no desire to buy like the symbiote stuff, the God's Butcher Slayers, blah, 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 blah. But I've made mental notes. So if I find one in an antique shop for $4, boom, I'm going to buy that because I know what it's worth. I know that it's something, and I know what it's worth. But for me, my collection, I would like, runs of like Fantastic Four, runs of Amazing Spider-Man, runs of X-Men. As you guys saw, my most recent posts on Instagram with comic books have been my X-Men collection, my entire complete X-Men collection, 1 through 66. And that's the entire Silver Age run. And so that's what I want my comic book collection to look like. That anything else that I get, even though I don't really sell right now,
Mhm.
I'm having a claim sale, you guys, this Saturday. But it's not really
Nice
for me.
transition.
It's not really for me. It's a friend that needs funds. So I'm selling books for him out of his personal collection. And
You're asking for a friend. Okay, we get it.
so for me, it's have an idea of what I want my collection to look like. I love, and also Man Cave gives me good advice too. He's an opportunist. Like, he knows what he wants and what he doesn't want. But if a good opportunity comes up for a big book and he's got the funds, like, be ready to buy, but you don't have to, like, just because you've got your stimulus money in right now, doesn't mean you have to go spend it.
Yeah.
Know what you want.
That's a great
And then
point.
be strategic and go after be pinpoint accurate at what you want. That's what I'm trying to do with my stimulus check.
Great point. Great point.
With my money. Aaron's like, yay. Whoa.
Aaron's like, I'm gonna leave that one alone.
No.
You make it uncomfortable.
And this just got really bad. All right, Stephen,
I'm having fun.
what are your thoughts? What do you think? And then I'll also highlight some of the ones in the chat. Like, what do you guys think in the chat? What's your advice for other collectors, or what are you going to be focusing on? So, Bonix, let's end it with this kind of stuff, and then Double A to you too after that.
Sweet.
I think really it just boils down to trying to have a focus and really knowing why you're in the hobby. Just having a bit, like, step back and say, you know, since these, because I've had a lot of collectors ask me, like, hey, I'm getting kind of stressed out, or I don't know if I want to sell because the market's going crazy. But it's really part of the hobby is to buy and sell, in my opinion. You can't have seller's remorse when you sell, because then you're really kind of taking the fun away from the hobby itself. So you're going to buy, you're going to sell, and you should be grateful for being able to fund your own hobby and getting the books that you like. So really, at the end of the day, I mean, you guys heard it 1,000 times, just do what you're passionate about, and at the end of the day, you'll be happy with your collection. So I think that's just, super generalized, but I think it's the best advice.
I like it.
Yeah, absolutely. I think the thing that I think, especially in the past couple of years, that has helped a lot is taking advantage of the people you know in the community. I mean, a lot of us are on Instagram. I know everyone on YouTube isn't on Instagram, but community looks different in different places over the internet, and maybe someday in real life again. But I think, sharing with your friends or the people that you go back and forth with, these are the things I'm kind of looking for, having them look out for you, and find the books that way in a more organic way. So seeking it out, but not necessarily, the first one I find, that's the one I have to buy. I must have that one. I think the patience factor, waiting, and eventually, the right book at the right time. I think, and is it a book you want? I've talked to a couple older collectors, and I think a transition happens when they go from chasing the books that everybody wants to chasing the books that they want.
Good point.
And I think it ends up better that way. I mean, I frequently ask myself, if this book was worth $20 tomorrow, would I still like it?
That's a good question.
Would I still think it was cool?
Yeah.
And that's very telling to me most of the time. Because if I immediately become disinterested if the book was worthless, well, then you kind of have a bit of an answer on what you actually think about the book.
Let's do this next time.
Patience
then.
is not my strongest key. Patience is not my strongest key.
Yeah. Same with me. And I often do fall into the when I'm like, I want Fantastic Four run, and then I watch a video and it's like, oh, that's hot. Let me go this way.
Yeah,
I fall into the trap too. I'm not immune to it. But let's do this sometime then. Let's bring a bunch of books that aren't worth anything that we still love.
Good one. Yeah.
Let's talk about the books because I think that's important too. Showing the books in your collection that aren't worth money, but you still love them completely. It's probably going to be some Omega Men.
Listen, don't you,
some Tom King.
People are not ready.
That's my want list.
For those who don't know, Green Lantern 141 is the first appearance of Omega Men. I'm pretty sure it's never been on a top 10 list, but I love that book. because Tom King did a mini series about the Omega Men. It's really fun. It's a good read. It's really enjoyable. But their first appearance is in Green Lantern 141. In high grade, it's definitely worth something at this point, but in lower mid grades, it's still a very attainable book. Just cool Green Lantern DC goodness.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's like, look where people aren't looking. Buy those in super high grades. Like, enjoy collecting Omega Men if that's what you want to look for. Even some of those Green Lantern, like Bronze Age, like Copper Age stuff. Let's read a couple of these from the chat and see what's going on with the chat. Desired Comics says, keep your ear to the streets, focus on your goals, and be open to using several strategies to get there. That's certainly awesome. A great point. Who Dat Comics, he's focused on getting the books that he loves and then selling the ones that he doesn't. And I've watched him do that and achieve amazing books. Like, he had an AF-15 one time, but his goal was to get a Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles #1 first print. And boy, did he ever get one. And he is like singing in the money now, in the money rain now, because that book went up exponentially since he got that. And I'm so super proud of him and happy for him. Off-White Tim says, collect what you absolutely love and prioritize based off windows of opportunity. I think that's really good too. And then collectible paper. My want list is very expensive. It is. It's probably responding to somebody else. And then Count Von Strange, what's up, my friend? My good friend. He says, my want list is very small.
Shout out to you, Count. Yeah, Count's very good. I've talked to him a couple of times. He's very good at staying focused on what he's trying to collect. He's very focused and targeted. So, and that's a good attribute to have.
I remember being at a con with him, and he was like, I'm over here buying something, over here buying something. He's like, I need to find a Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles #4. This was years ago, before it was like super hot. And he was like, and he found it. And so he's like being very focused. It was awesome to see. Bronze Age silver for me all day. I want to go back to a comic convention. I completely agree. Try to resist fear of missing out. Remember, this is a marathon, not a sprint. Yeah, you don't have to spend all your money at the same time chasing every single book. You know, this is one thing that I also think, and I showed it on and then I think we should probably get going. We've been over an hour and a half now, but books that bolster your collection. Like, if you're really proud to have the hottest book in the top 10, if you want a short box of the hottest books on the top 10 over the last years, and that makes you super happy, that's awesome. One thing that I love is bolstering my collection with really cool keys. Like, when I'm looking through somebody's collection, or say I'm watching a video of somebody's collection, and I see something like a book that's not worth very much, but it's Sandman #1, the Jack Kirby Sandman #1, Fourth World stuff. I'm like, that's a cool book. It may be worth $20, but that's a cool book. That makes your collection really cool to me. And then another one is like Marvel Superheroes #12, the first appearance of Captain Marvel. That book's not worth much of all because he's not going to show up in the movie. He already did, and it was like the lady that was Carol Danvers' mentor. And so that iteration of the character will never show up. You can get that book for $50 in a pretty darn solid grade. It improves your collection in my eyes. It makes your collection look so much cooler. Hulk 102, that book has not gone up in a long time. It's a cool book. Every time I see it, I'm like, wow, that's a cool book. I could care less. I agree. $500 or $50. That's a cool book to me. Anyways, that's what I'm thinking. Like, find books that will bolster your collection in your own eyes. And those are the kind of the books that bolster my collection. It doesn't matter if they're $500, $50, $5, whatever they are. If it helps increase the coolness factor of your collection to you, that's awesome. Absolutely. Any last thoughts?
No, this is a great conversation, guys. I mean, I learned a ton of stuff today. I'm gonna probably watch this video over like a couple times because, try to let everything sink in, and it's good topics, great topics.
Yeah, I love interacting with everyone in this way and kind of seeing what's going on, and just encouraging people to go after the things that they enjoy.
If you want to join our gang, you'll have to prove yourself in the yard. So I don't know. These guys had to prove themselves, and they were like super worthy.
We healed from all the black eyes that Alex gave us. He had to jump us in, by the way. So
same here, man. I'm fully healed by now, and that's why we're able.
We joined. I have no clue what's happening.
We joined this gang like a long time ago, but we were all too bloody and beat up to even go live. So who that wants to join the gang?
Yeah,
probably take us
nice.
all.
Hey, who that?
can take us all.
You're gonna be our new OG.
Yeah.
You and Alex are the two OGs. There we go.
All right, you guys, this has been awesome. Super fun. I really do hope it helps. I hope the positivity and the positive outlook on this has been refreshing, because we don't want to complain about a comic industry or hobby that we love so much. We want to welcome it. And like, how do we adjust to the way that it is now? Like, how do I adjust my feelings?
And if you are a newer collector, you know, feel free to hit us up. We're friendly. YouTube, Instagram, email. I love talking to people. I know so does Alex and so does Steven. So, you know, say hello.
Absolutely. No more Daredevil in church, Alex. Immortal Big
Somebody
Shot.
mentioned it in the chat. Is like, isn't that ironic that you bought a Daredevil?
But he's a Catholic. He's a Catholic.
Oh, yeah,
He's
yeah,
a
there you
good
go.
Catholic boy. And David Seeking Near Comics is in the house too. It's good to see my 9.2 brother in the house. 9.2 for life, man.
So next Wednesday, same time, we will talk to Alex.
yeah. This
Is this the new 9.2 crew?
next year when we do the show again, we hope to see you guys around. So we'll talk to you on the next one.
All right, guys. See ya.
See ya.
See you guys.
Bye.
Bye. Bye, everyone. Hope you find your dad.